This episode with Patricia Franke is so delightfully playful. She's a transformational coach and a best-selling author, and in speaking circles known as Miss Kick-Ass, which I love. And in our conversation, we talk about the kind of shift in your life where you can thrive as you're going through, especially midlife. And she talks about her former career in burlesque dancing and coming into her own confidence with her body and challenging herself, and then moving. Now she's a stepmom of two girls, married, travels the world speaking, coaching, and she even has a pole in her kitchen to make sure she dances and plays, when she's having a bad day or low on energy or when people come for dinner. She's phenomenal. Enjoy the podcast. As always, DM me, let me know what you think, and just enjoy. Welcome to the Shift Your Vibe to Thrive podcast. My name is Emily Evans Russell, and I'm a single mom, multiple six-figure business owner, and master mindset and energy coach. I created this podcast with two main targets. One, to give you practical tools so that no matter where you are in your life right now, you not only know that things can shift, but you know how to make them greater. And two, to change your frequency so that you become an energetic match for everything you desire. I'm talking your relationships, your finances, your success, all of it. Think of this podcast as your weekly energetic upgrade with a mix of subconscious mind hacks, ways to quantum leap, and consciousness shifts. A place where you learn to sculpt your reality and actually finally truly have the magical life you deserve, and one that works for uniquely you. Are you ready to uplevel your reality? I think I hear yes, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for being here. And now let's go to the show. Okay, so Patricia, talk to me a little bit about, I'm so excited to have you as my guest. And as we've chatted a bit before we got on, I'd love you to talk more about, we're both almost 50, and as women in a phase of our lives where it's this interesting part where you might have lived as like, I'm younger and I'm going after it. And then my kids get older, and you either see women who are really tired, and there's not many, as you said, like role models for really kicking ass in this phase that can be so exciting. But many of us feel like not seen or not sexy anymore. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I'm so glad we can actually go about this subject, because this is exactly my thing. Because I felt like the other day, oh my God, I like here in Germany, people talk to you sir and madam, right? So I go to this shop and I look really funky with my leopard skin trousers and thinking, whoa, I'm feeling 27. And then this young guy keeps calling me ma'am and madam. And I'm just like, what the fuck's going on? Sorry for the bloops. What the hell's going on? And I'm like, hey, and then I realized, oh, Patricia, hold on, you're turning 48 this year. So something is changing, obviously, right? And so I think it's really important for us women and during midlife to actually to connect and speak about how we feel and see that there's a lot of chance, and that we don't actually, sometimes I look in the mirror and I realize, okay, I don't see myself as that old, but obviously there's something like an aura or like a charisma or whatever. People can tell that you're kind of mature, and that's fine. And that's actually, why should we hide from that? And I think that the normal media and whatever the picture that they paint of a midlife woman is always somebody kind of, I don't know, conservative or not attractive anymore. And I kind of felt myself thinking about that and thinking, oh my God, so this woman, she's already over 50. So this is not a good thing. And I'm thinking, why am I thinking like that? I'm almost 50. And now I'm actually opening up my eyes and I'm seeing a lot of women older, and I kind of feel attracted to them, obviously not in a sexual way, but I kind of look at them like, oh wow, look at her. She's so well maintained and she's got this like super confident vibe about her, and I'm feeling really interested in that.
There's this wisdom that you get. I'm also going to be 48 this year. That's funny. And I remember talking with my mother at one point and asking her, hey, what was your like favorite decade in your life? And she was like, my 40s and 50s. It was such a beautiful time. And I've had that same thing when it's this interesting shift. And I know I'd love you to talk a bit about earlier in your life, you were a burlesque performer. And I'd love to talk about like what that unlocked in you. And then how that identity as we get older shifts, and you like still have this, we have wisdom and we have charisma and this experience, and yet the media and society kind of is like, well, you're sort of washed up, which is exactly the opposite. But can you speak about that early experience and how it's like weaved into your life and your work as a coach and a speaker and an author?
Yeah, obviously. You just said it. When I was in my 20s, I used to live in London, and I know we talked about this as well, because I know you lived in London as well for some time.
Yeah.
And as you know, it's really expensive over there, or used to be anyway, 20 years ago. And I was a really poor student, and I thought, wow, this really sucks because I can't afford anything. And then on a funny girls' night out, we kind of thought, you know what? Let's just jump in the cab and ask the cab driver to take us to a really classy gentleman's club, because we thought we just want to have some fun. And or we didn't say classy, we said sophisticated gentleman's club. And the guy understood, the cab driver understood sophisticates, which was a very, very notorious and popular gentleman's burlesque club at the time in London. So he got us there. And we entered the premises, and it was all funny and glamorous and kind of a bit like, ooh, you know, we're entering something really spooky and scary. And the bouncer said, "Why are you here for, girls? Are you here for an audition?" And so we were all a bit tipsy, and we said, "Yeah, let's go. We're here for an audition." So we blagged our way into the club for free. And then the manager came up to us, and we were like three girls. And the manager asked, "So who's here for the audition?" And my two girlfriends pointed at me and said, "This one is." She is. And so I was like, yeah, I was just bullshitting along basically. And then the guy said, "Yeah, all right, there's a dressing room. You can take one of the dresses. You're up in 5 minutes." And I
Oh
kind
my
of went,
gosh, in front of a crowd? Like you're
yeah,
gonna have
full on.
yeah.
Yeah, full on crowd. And it was, I don't know. And I was really like, yeah, I was a bit shell shocked. And my girlfriends were like, "Come on, let's do this." They were edging me on. And then I thought, what can happen? You know, the only thing that can happen is people see maybe my naked breasts, and that's all. And it will be a funny story for all my grandchildren, at some point, you know.
Yeah.
And I was actually lucky because I was wearing matching bra and knickers, which I normally never, and used to never do at the time.
Amazing.
And yeah, they gave me a few glasses of champagne, and then I jumped on stage. And I mean, I have to say that I love dancing all my whole life. And I think it was on my bucket list to actually be able to do such a fun, like a routine in such a club, but only once. And I did it, and it was fun. I was obviously super nervous. The crowd was funny. I got off stage, and I thought they're never going to hire me or anything. This was just it. And then the manager said, "Well, you know, you were pretty good. Why don't you come back tomorrow and try it out for real?" And
Wow.
I said, "No way, Jose, I'm never going to come back. You're never going to see my face again." But yeah, we had a fun night afterwards, and my girls were like, "Why don't you try it out?" And I mean, I was working a call center at the time, minimum wage. I wasn't earning any money. And I went the next day. I thought, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? It was a pretty good club. There was nothing seedy or horrible. And I thought the only thing that can happen is that after an hour, I will decide to just leave. But I ended up loving it, and I made a career out of it. I spent 7 years working as a burlesque dancer and also a striptease dancer, and I was basically traveling around the world with it, and I absolutely loved it. And I really unlocked my femininity, my confidence, my vulnerability, because you're pretty vulnerable when you're even if it's a nice thong, but even if you're just in a thong on a fully lit stage, I think it doesn't get more vulnerable than that. And
Yeah.
I think this is how through that vulnerability, I ended up becoming a so-called expert in authenticity, because vulnerability is the essence of authenticity. And this is why I'm here and why we're talking today.
That is, that is, I love this story because not having had any of that planned and just going with this lights me up, this is fun. I've asked to sort of show up in this way. How did that affect? I know, like you said, there has to be such a level of presence and vulnerability with our bodies. And how did you find that with that balance of being, this is me, and at the same time, you know, they would like, I know people would say, well, you're being objectified though on stage. But did you ever feel like that? Or was it more like an appreciation of your beauty and your femininity?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I actually felt the latter. Like I felt that I was because the thing is, I think with authenticity is the thing. We're always playing roles. I mean, I know you're a mother of, I think, two daughters, I remember.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're different as a mother than as a good friend or a lover or a wife or whoever. So, I mean, we share the same fundamental values, obviously, but still we kind of play a role in these things. And for me, I felt like the great thing with burlesque dancing is that you get a stage name, you get to pick a stage name. So you don't go on stage as Patricia, you have like a fancy stage name. I was Juliana Darling. And
I love
so
it.
you're kind of playing that role. I mean, it's even funny because my now husband, sometimes says to me when I'm a bit tipsy and I start flicking my hair and being sassy around the house, he's always like, "Oh, I think Juliana Darling's just got to the house." So it's always like laughing at me. And yeah, and I never felt objectified, to be honest. I made a pact with two of my best friends at the time who weren't dancers, and I said, look, if you feel that I'm changing in this field, in this area, if you feel that I'm changing, I'm becoming harder, or that I'm going to be drawn into things that I shouldn't be doing, like obviously this kind of world also, there's a lot of other stuff involved as well, that you're also close to drugs. There's also some girls take offers that they shouldn't take. So you kind of always in between all of that. But I feel that it's up to you what you make out of it. And you know, my friends, I had like a check-in with them every 6 months, and they said, no, you're fine. You're doing great. I mean, you're just shining. And I remember being on the London Tube, and they, you know, if you've ever rode on the London Tube, they have these like poles there, and I'd just be standing there on that pole waiting for the next stop, and I had people just staring at me, even though I was wearing tracksuits, because I had this kind of confidence, and I love that, the power, the confidence.
I love that. I love that you also had friends to check in with, because as you say that, so did you have to consciously be aware of like keeping your heart open and so much vulnerability? And I imagine some women could close off to be that identity or role, but for you, it obviously opened up. Did you see that as more common with the women more than, oh, I have to harden myself to get on stage? Was it more of what you're speaking about, or is it just how the person handled it?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I felt that in my case, for me, I had an objective. I'm a trained singer as well, so I always loved dancing and music always lights me up. And I had a lot of problems with my body when I was younger because I was suffering from bulimia. I had a really full-on eating disorder, and I was never happy with my body and whatnot. And I kind of felt, okay, this is going to be the ultimate challenge. If I can stand in a bikini, even if it's on 7-inch heels, but if I can stand in a bikini on a fully I get it, right? And it really helped me. I mean, it cured my bulimia within like a few months. I was really like cured because I kind of felt, oh my God, I've got curves at this and that, and people love me the way I am. And that really helped me. And I felt with a lot of women, dancing kind of helped them in a way as well. It obviously really depended on what their objective was. And I think you need to be careful in this world, but it's not just in the burlesque world, but it's also in the corporate world. People can suck all the energy out of you or anywhere, really. So you always need to be kind of always aware and conscious of how you feel about this. Is this lightening me up? Is this giving me energy? Or is this taking away energy from me? And I feel that burlesque dancing or this kind of period in my life helped me, for instance, to live my life the way I live my life right now. I always make decisions. Does this light me up right now? Does this help me? Or is this going to just suck my energy? Then if it does take away from my energy, then I always look at it. Okay, how beneficial is it? Do I have to do it? Do I have to do my taxes? Yes, I do. So does it take energy? Yeah, but it's fine. It's something, you know, there's a good cause behind it, right? But if it takes, and if I have a new client or if I have a new speaking gig or if my publisher says I should write about a different topic and I don't feel like there's light or like some energy, I just don't do it anymore. I just don't. And I just say no.
That is so beautiful, and something I'm always talking about too, because that's been a struggle for me, I would say, when I was younger. And I was so willing to really do things, but that were energy draining. It was maybe all about another person or their business. And then finally, I've found one of the gifts of this stage of life is like, wait a second, the external metrics and performance finally starts to go away as important. Like, I've been there, I know I can do that. And now it's more internal, like what's going to really light me up and add energy, which I found, I see that. I don't know if that's relative to age or just life experience, but I love also, because I was going to ask you about business and how this, like now being an entrepreneur, are there other things that you found from the dancing, from performing, from being like really having to be vulnerable, that you now find are real assets in speaking and coaching and writing?
Oh, absolutely. When you're like, and when you work in this sort of industry, or when you kind of, it's not about the industry really, it's about challenging yourself. You don't have to wear like a fancy bikini and jump on stage to experience all this. I feel for me, it was a personal challenge because obviously I had my, my challenges with my body. I had issues with my body and my self-confidence. But I feel if you set yourself up for any challenge that you feel, it could be a gym thing or could be, climbing a mountain or running a marathon or something. It doesn't have to be as extreme as in my case. It just makes you stronger. And for instance, I do live by a motto, which is called guided and protected. And I really feel guided and protected. And I also know I can always rely on myself. And this is something absolutely powerful, which I didn't have when I was a lot younger, because I always kind of felt like what you've just said, there's this outside thing, yeah, people pleasing. Oh my God, I have to please my parents. I have to please society, especially my kind of former line of work. What do you tell people? Oh, so you're a stripper, you're a burlesque dancer. That's really bad. And then I also come from a Catholic country originally, so there's all this prejudice on top and stuff. I'm just like, yeah, but in the end, I know that from that experience, for me, it was a challenge that I overcame. I felt right on top. And this is something I use all the time now. And plus, whenever I also know I take my energy, I get my energy from dancing. I even have a pole. I don't know if you see it in my kitchen. It's over there.
Oh, I love that. Right in the kitchen.
So everybody that comes to our house has to earn their dinner, right? Literally. They need to do a little twirl. So whenever I feel nowadays I'm an entrepreneur and I sometimes get invited to these fancy like speaking gigs and there's all these semi-important people around there, I never take myself too serious. I always, before I go on stage, I usually do my little thing around the pole thinking, hey, you've done a lot of other things and you take your strength from there. And that helps me to basically stay grounded and to always remember to rely on myself and that I can overcome anything. So hopefully, but yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this because this mix of strength and knowing you can do it on your own. And also, how do you manage that with also being in your feminine? Because I know I can tend to go to, I've got it, I can do it by myself and then not receive and not function from this like kind of energetic flow. So, how for you does that show up? Or do you have tips for people of having that strength and knowing you can do it, but you're also supported and you're also guided? So how does that work for you?
I think it's playfulness. I can totally relate to what you were saying. That's what I teach in my coachings as well. I always say, guys, we're not human doings. We're human beings. And I try to basically, I am somebody who's quite masculine. I'm a woman who's quite masculine in terms that I like to get things done. But I always remind myself to be more playful. And that means whatever, be playful with my dogs or obviously with my partner. For instance, when my husband comes home, I try to, for instance, when I feel, okay, I'm really in a business mode, then I try to just 1 hour before he comes home, I will have a bath, I will have some music and I'll start dancing, doing my thing. And so as soon as he comes home, he doesn't even know that I've done all this routine, right? I'm totally dressed in my tracksuits, whatever. But he's like, oh my God, you just like, he's so into me at that point because I'm just exuding all this like softness and this sweetness and whatever. And I kind of try to get that into my routine almost daily, that I find something to be playful about. It's not always about having your hair done or your nails, whatever suits you. Yeah, I think that's one thing. And I also try to remember to receive whenever I receive something. Like the other day, I was at a supermarket and there's this guy there, this salesperson. And we always joke. I don't know. It's not flirting. It's just fun. It's just, we always have a laugh. And the other day I walked in there and I must have had my masculine mask on because I was really like running around. And then he just looked at me and I'm like, good morning. And he's like, good morning. And then I was looking for bananas and I didn't have any nice bananas, whatever. And then I was just at a checkout. And then when I went outside the supermarket, he came up to me and said, hey, I saw you looking for bananas, but look what I found. We've got we had some really nice ones, fresh ones in the bag. And he gave them to me. And I just went, okay. I was so grateful for that. And I said, okay, I'm receiving. So I'm kind of like reminding myself and being grateful when I have moments that I receive, because it's so easy to overlook all this. Or when I find a parking spot right in the middle of the city on a hectic day, and it's right in front of the shop where I want to go shopping, and I just go, oh, look, I've received. I'm open to receiving more. So this is kind of my little mantra that I use to encourage myself and to install more of that receiving feminine energy in myself.
That's so beautiful. That play I have in WhatsApp, you get to pick a few words next to your
Yeah.
name. I've always had play, play, play next to
Oh,
my
good.
name. I like that you expanded out to, okay, I dance, or it's not about being feminine, isn't about having to have your hair done and your nails done. It's this playfulness. I think that's such a great way because it's everyone plays in a different way, but we all
Yeah,
know how to play. And as
exactly.
we grow older, sometimes, like often, that we let that out of our lives. And so I want to ask you about too, you're married, you have children.
Yeah,
How has
stepchildren.
that been? Your stepchildren. So how has that been with, like, again, like midlife, having your own business, creating time for play? What has that journey been like?
That's been quite a full-on ride because, as I just mentioned, I married just one person. I married three people, so I always say buy one get two free on top. So
I love it.
I got three people for the price of one. As I'm very lucky, my husband and I, we're married. It's the second marriage for both of us, and he brought in two girls. And they are now, the oldest one is going to be 17 in July, and the youngest is going to be 13. So full on teenage mode. And it's been a challenge for all of us, first of all, to blend in as a family. And then secondly, we're both self-employed as well. So to always find your balance. But for me, I think the two girls have been, apart from my husband, obviously, but the two girls have been a real blessing because I never saw myself as a full-on mother. I love children, but I never felt like having them on my own. And when I met my husband and I knew he had two kids, I was like, okay, brilliant. Let's have a look how this works out. And now I can be kind of mama light. Like I can spoil them. I can go shopping. I'm the one who gives all the advice. And then they can leave. So I don't have to do any of the educating and raising them really. And then I feel that also gives me a lot of that playfulness back in terms of that I need when they're here, I'm their full-on female support, whatever. So I try to be as motherly as possible without obviously trying to be their mother because they have a wonderful mother. They don't need another mother. They just, need Patricia as an auntie or whatever. It's just trying to be that female support, just trying to be a role model that you can be all and that you can have it all. So, yeah, it's not always easy. But the thing is, I think communication is key, as we always say. And my husband and I, we have certain keywords, like whenever somebody of us gets off the rail, then we have this safe word where we go flamingo. So either someone is too drunk, drinking too much, so flamingo, you had enough, yeah? Or you're bitching about too much about your business, or you're too stressed about your business, then we just go flamingo. And this is kind of, we have this thing,
Love
or
that.
this game between us. And I think, yeah, communication is always key. And I keep telling him all the time, I said, look, if I've got this phase, I'm writing a new book at the moment, I'm stressed out about it. So when you feel I'm starting to become too bossy, give me the flamingo. And I remember one day he brought this blown up flamingo home and he just went like showing it in my face. Well, okay, all right, let's go for dinner. So I think it's always a challenge, but it's always something where you kind of need to communicate and refocus.
I love that there's even play in the communication,
Yeah.
right? Rather than you're being bossy, just bring home a flamingo. This is such a good idea. So you're a best-selling author. You speak German, but obviously you speak English brilliantly, and you're starting a new Instagram about midlife change. Can you talk about, I'd love for people to know where to find you and what your target is with that.
Yeah, brilliant. I was recently at an event here for a big magazine in Germany, and it was all about female sexuality. And it was, like a panel of experts or whatever, and lots of other women from 20 to 60, and everyone was talking about their sexuality. And then we kind of realized that there is not much out there for people or for women in midlife. And I kind of felt the same as, oh my God, I'm approaching 48, I'm approaching 50. So is this it? Has this been it? Am I never going to get a wolf whistle anymore, right? Is this it? It's not that I want to get them all the time, but I kind of felt, why is this part of my life over? Is this weird? I also feel we talked about with other women how you lack energy, or you kind of like then perimenopausal, whatever symptoms and whatnot. And I thought, okay, why not start a channel that speaks to these women like me at my age who feel the same and who start to feel seen again, because we don't have role models in that respect. When I look at my mom, obviously she's 25 years older than me. She comes from Poland originally, so that was totally different times for her to talk this openly about all these things is sometimes a bit like shocking, right? So we don't really have role models of women let's say 40s, 50s, I find 60s, who are still thriving. And I mean, I know your podcast is called Thriving. So it's all about
Yeah.
living a great life and kicking ass. And I think there's so much to approach in this chapter of life. And so this is why I felt like something resonated within me. And I felt like, why not do a channel about this? And I will obviously do this in English as well. So to reach as many women out there as possible. And I would like to have this as like a safe space where women can just tune in and they can listen whatever to a conversation like we're having right now about women that are similar age, or that maybe women that want to open up a project or want to become self-employed or maybe write a book or something, or anything really, and boost their confidence and see that there's a lot of opportunity, because we are now living up, I don't know, most women live up to 90, 95 is pretty normal, pretty standard. So if we're 48, we have another 50 years, maybe 45. So what, it should be over now? I mean, I don't see why. That'd be a
I know, I
shame.
was thinking about that the other day. I was like, wow, I get to live all these years again. What's like, it's amazing in this
What's
new
next?
way with all what's next, rather than, like you said, it can be easy to start feeling unseen. You know, you have kids that are grown or maybe leaving the house, or, and rather than looking at it as an endpoint, I'm like, what a beautiful plot twist. Like to get to remix and create your life with all of this wisdom and experience. And I know I feel more me, like authentic, than I ever have in my
Totally.
younger years. Oh,
Yeah. And you
it's so
don't just, I
beautiful.
think, and I also feel you don't take anything from other people anymore. You're just so much more confident. You know what you want normally. Sometimes we get, I mean, I felt this. I got a bit, I got like couple of years ago, I kind of felt insecure suddenly because I felt like, oh my God. So can I still do this? Or can I still speak to an audience? Or what are they going to think? This middle-aged woman is coming upstage. Who's she? You know, all these things. I had all these stupid thoughts in my head, right? And people were in front of me going, are you crazy? What are you talking about? And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel, and I realized, okay, perimenopause. This is part of perimenopause, that you have kind of weird thoughts. So what can I do against it? So, you know, what happened is last year, I started to exercise again. I started, okay, I always used to be physically fit because obviously I used to be dance and stuff. And then I kind of realized, oh my God, I gained whatever, 7 pounds, and I kind of felt sluggish and had these weird thoughts. And I thought, so what can I do against this? And I thought, exercise. So I enrolled in a boxing course. I love boxing. So I'm now training with the world championship in boxing. And even though it's a masculine thing again, but it's with a female box trainer, I feel back to normal, because I realized now at midlife, you have to basically invest more in yourself, not necessarily in personal development, but also kind of in supplements, fitness, eating well, taking no shit, I'm sorry for saying this, from other people. So basically prioritizing, who do I want to spend time with? Where do I compromise? Where do I not want to compromise? And I also feel, I just said, I said I kind of left out personal development. I feel that it's a great age to go back into personal development and to just go, okay, what else do I have? Do I have any more like insecurities, any more negative self-beliefs? Now I need to weed them out, because they're not going to go away by themselves. You need to weed them out now. So,
And I love this because it really does require a new perspective, because I also always stayed fit. And then getting a little bit older, I stumbled across, well, you actually need to lift weights more. And I had never, I was
oh
usually
yeah,
a yoga person or runner. And once I started adding that in, and I went to a surf lesson, and I was like, I want to, taking my daughters to a surf camp this summer. And so in prep for that, I was like, I need to be stronger. And it changed my entire body so quickly, and my energy level, all of it. And I was like, I was missing that piece of information, and I was still functioning like my younger body. So it's like such a gift to have someone speaking about this phase. And because like you said, they're in that older generation, it just wasn't something people talked about.
no.
Beautiful.
No, and it's like my mom. She's like the other day I said to her, why don't you start exercising? Everything she talks about, her back hurts, this hurts, what not hurts, everything is kind of, and I felt like, yeah, these are stored emotions, right? We can release them. A lot of that is. Then again, what you've just said really is the truth for me as well. Like lifting weights. On my times when I hit the boxing sack, I realized, okay, my shoulders are getting stronger and there's a lot of cardio in it, whatnot. I do lift weights as well. And I kind of felt, wow, this is really changing my body. And plus, suddenly I have all this energy back and all
Yeah.
these magazines and media is telling you, yeah, it's normal. Even my gynecologist said to me, yeah, well, you're already approaching perimenopause, so you'll be feeling a lot more tired. And I said, yeah, but heck, I don't want to feel more tired all the time. So what am I going to do in 20 years then? I'm just going to sleep all day or so. This can't be
Well, I
it.
love that because that's why it's so key, like you said, to find there might be new types of personal development and release of emotions and ways of working your body and ways of interacting with people. What an exciting time, because there is this shift rather than going, oh, I'm just supposed to be tired for the rest of my life. I mean, it was similar when I became a new mom. People told me, well, you're not ever going to have good girlfriends again. You're just going to meet the moms of your kids' friends. And I thought, similar thing. Well, no, I'm going to create this phase of my life differently. And so I love having you on about all of this topic because there's such an invitation to create whatever phase you're in a way that works for authentically you.
Yeah, and I think you know what you're such a great role model in yourself, right? With everything you do with your work and all that. And it's like I feel there's a lot of these Buddhist whatever calendar, nice whatever mottos where it says you can change your day every second of the day. And it never really sunk in. I thought, yeah, this sounds really nice, but it's going to be for other people. But it is true. It's even now, I know you practice RT as well on your podcast. I'm sure you talk about this a lot because it's an amazing technique. And this is how we met as well. And
Yep.
it's just about shifting your perspective. A lot of times when I have a really bad day or bad mood, I try to just shift my perspective to see, okay, what's in there for me? And if I can't find anything at all, I'll just go to bed for an hour. And then when I wake up, I'm back to normal. And just that realization gives you so much power. And I'm really glad and grateful to live what you've just said in these times where there's so much information out there and there's lots more women our age speaking up. And I feel this is such a blessing. And when I look at my stepdaughters, I kind of feel like, wow, when they're going to be my age, there must be so much more information. And hopefully by then, they're going to be even more relaxed and hopefully a lot earlier. I feel that I've wasted a lot of my years, those years where everything was tight and nice and whatnot, your body was amazing and all this. How much time did I waste on stupid men or worrying about what people think about me or being scared about my future? And all this is all bullshit, in the end. And this is why most women love their 40s and 50s, because you're more grounded and you have this sense of trust that things are going to work out and that you can rely on yourself. And I think that's absolutely powerful.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I have that ask for this generation too, as my daughters are a little younger than your stepdaughter, so 11 and 14. But I am seeing that. I'm like, what, they're going to have access to so many different things available as being a woman. They're already the things I'm talking about with my 14-year-old. I think, God, I didn't even think about that till I was in my 20s. So this is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how can people find you to work with you more?
You can find me on my website, which is www.patriciafranke.rocks, which is like my speaking and my business coaching RT website. It's in German and in English. And if you want to find me on Instagram, then it would be probably best on my new channel, which is midlife_change, because the other one is in German, but this one is going to be in English and it's going to be all about midlife stuff.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun. And I'm really grateful you took the time in this conversation. It was really helpful for me. And I know all of the listeners. So just thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. It was all my pleasure and also my honor to be featured on your amazing podcast. And I'm so excited and happy for everything that you do. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of listeners and a lot of your followers that really appreciate your work. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. I hope you got something out of that episode. If you like this podcast, please share it with someone you know who would find it useful or interesting, and subscribe so that you can listen to past and upcoming shows.